as we experience the healers and the healing chairs, I would also like us to go on a voluntary journey. And I have background in the work of Edgar Cayce. One of the books that helped me a lot was the Edgar Cayce Story of Jesus by Jeffrey First. And Edgar Cayce suggested that there was a reincarnational or metaphysical story that underlay that story. I'd like to take us on an imaginary journey and see if we can experience those times and those places. So take a deep breath. Let go of any dis-ease, anything that's out of harmony. And take a deep breath and attune yourselves to the higher metaphysical healing forces. Imagine that it's 2,000 years ago, and that you find yourself at a time when the world is rather troubled, and there's confusion. The vibrations are rather dark and troubled. There's a group of Jewish people, not the Sadducees, not the Pharisees, but the Essenes. And the Essenes are like we are. They study meditation. We know about guidance. We know about the stars. And so the Essenes gathered together in temples that were later unearthed. And Edgar Cayce said there were priestesses too amongst the Essenes. And some of the unearthed archaeological material shows entrances for both male and female persons of spirit. So you're in a scene, and if you're a group that seeks to elevate the consciousness of the world as you find it, just as we might want to do now. And particularly, there were a group of young maidens who followed some of the principles of holistic diet and did lots of preparation, meditation, along with the rest of the group. And these 11 maidens, you might have been one of them or known them, gathered one day together, and there were steps in the temple, and an angel appeared. We believe in angels. And the angel appeared, and the angel came and directed their wings, their energy, to a young maiden called Mary. It would be Mary who had a special role to play. In the Edgar Cayce readings, Mary, the soul that became Jesus, had lived before. They had lived before as we have. At the same time, they were part of an elder brother-sister energy called Arcturus. So Mary was designated. We know, we hear the story of Immaculate Conception. The Cayce reading suggests that she also had come into being through her mother Anne in the same way, and that Mary was actually the companion soul of Jesus, and he to her throughout time. So you're a maiden, or you know this maiden, and as the story of the Bible comes to pass, she carries a child that seems quickened by spirit. And we know the story of looking for the safe place. We know the story of the wise men, who probably were astrologers who were called by events in the stars to come and celebrate the birth of a special individual who was not only that child, but represented the intentions of the Essenes to bring clear channels of light into the world. And each of us is like a seed. And we experience being a child with a special mission. Each of us has a mission too. And growing up and coming into our memory of our other lives, as Jesus did, and coming into our consciousness and our ability to change the world for the better. There was another couple, a Essene couple, who had expected a special child years before this, a child who would be very important in bringing light in the world, and they had a little girl named Judith. And as Jesus grew up, Judith became, according to the readings, his teacher. And she took him into, they have traveled with him and made him aware of many other times and places where he may have lived and journeyed before his life with Jesus. We too have lived before and journeyed. According to the Cayce readings, all the races of humanity are equal, and we have been in more than one race on earth. So as Jesus, you were the student as he was, opens up to the deeper spiritual awakening, the guidance, the metaphysical story of humankind in the earth, he becomes more aware of his purpose. Each of us has a purpose, something that you can do that no one can do as well, a way that you can brighten your corner of the world as no one else can brighten it. So this is a metaphorical story of our own journey as well. And as did Jesus eventually meet animosity for bringing that light, so many of us have felt isolated, we felt misunderstood as old souls in the earth, and sometimes very much alone. Before the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, he had a time where he's off by himself and tempted, quote, by the devil with 3 temptations. One of them was that this shy tin, who to the Zoroastrians is the shadow self of us, said, I can turn all these rocks into bread. And Jesus had had a lifetime before. One of his lives was as a person named Hermes in Nubia, Africa. And in that life, he had been a great wise one who came back into Egypt with Rata and Isis. But when he came back from Africa into Egypt, it was the beginning of what we might call some of the isms, the racism and the sexism. And it was hurtful to him, and he loved good food. Hermes loved good food. So he became a very big person with the comfort of food. And sometimes we turn to too much of things in our lives when we seek comfort. So Hermes, Jesus was tempted that all the rocks could be turned into bread. That would be nice. And he had to stay in that center and that balance as we sometimes become out of balance with things that superficially comfort us, but may not be to our greater good. And also he was offered to fly in as a great ruler. He was offered to have others bow before him. But he'd done that in other lives. He'd done those things in Atlantis, flying into India as wrong. And as Joseph in the Old Testament, his brothers were understandably jealous of him because he had a mother at great age who was the real wife of their father. And she kind of lauded him. When he was taken by the brothers, blood put on his garments, they thought he died. He was taken to Egypt where he became a great dream interpreter. Some of us have those gifts. When there was going to be famine in the land, the Pharaoh's wife, they had a dream of big sheaves of wheat and straggly sheaves of wheat. And he was able to tell them that this famine was to come. His brothers ultimately had to come before him and beg for food, and there was the part of him that really enjoyed them having to crawl with it. So he didn't quite reach the full enlightenment promise. Each of us is like an Essene. Each of us, as Jesus and Mary and those that surrounded them, were able to bring light into the world. So are we now at this special time of year and always. So as we say goodbye to the Essenes in our imagination, we realize that we too are part of a group that seeks to bring the light. That if you listen to that rather long story, a mystical story at this time of the year.
Thank you.